have the largest joint bill, £60,000 in all, for overclaiming their accommodation allowances.
This has been a very sad affair. I'm very sorry about it. I did try to act as honestly as possible, but where I failed, I am sorry.
Most of the expenses were for mortgages, but some were more exotic. Tory MP Anthony Steen claimed for his flagpole rope. Labour MP Sir Gerald Kaufman claimed for 2 Waterford grapefruit bowls. And ex-Democratic Unionist MP Iris Robinson overclaimed for, yes, a bed. Today was supposed to draw a line under the sorry saga of MPs' expenses, a day of reckoning that would bring some sense of closure. But it hasn't really been like that. MPs had the right to appeal to a retired judge, and he was pretty sympathetic, giving weight to their claims that the leg review had at times been unfair. The appeals of 75 MPs were considered by Sir Paul Kennedy, and he concluded it was damaging, unfair and wrong of the leg review to say some MPs' genuine transactions were tainted. As a result, Sir Paul upheld, either partially or fully, 44 appeals. So the former Tory Cabinet Minister Peter Lilly saw his £41,000 repayment cut to nothing, and the Tory MP Bernard Jenkin had his £63,000 repayment reduced to just £37,000.
I think there's been virtually no faith in the Legg report because it was lazy in as much as it didn't address individual points put to it. It was incompetent in as much as it got so much arithmetic wrong. And it was illogical because Legg went back and said, well, we're going to have retrospective limits for gardening and cleaning, but not, for example, for food or mortgages. So he created some fairly ludicrous situations as a result of that.
As for the party leaderships, well, they just want it all to go away.
I hope this is the beginning of the end of this whole dreadful chapter. What is absolutely essential is that MPs pay back all of this money that's been identified.
I hope it'll be the final chapter in this rotten parliament so that we can look forward to a new parliament with new rules and painstakingly regaining public trust for what MPs do.
The government said the money would be repaid.
I'll bring to the House a resolution to authorise the recovery from members' salary or allowances any amount outstanding after the 22nd of this month.
Some who might have to pay a different price are the 6 MPs and peers who are waiting to find out if the Crown Prosecution Service tomorrow decides to prosecute them over their expense claims. This ain't over yet. James Landell, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, let's join our political editor, Nick Robinson, who's at the Palace of Westminster. Nick, where does Parliament stand, do you think, after today's events?
Well, in confusion and muddle, frankly, Hugh. This was supposed to be the day in which the political establishment here showed to the public that they got it, to use the vernacular of this expenses crisis. But what have we had? We've had a man called Sir Thomas reviewing the rules, rewriting the rules of this place because he says they weren't acceptable, and ordering about half of MPs to pay money back. But not so simple, because then a man called Sir Paul said he shouldn't have rewritten the rules, so he rewrote some of the repayments on appeals. Meanwhile, a guy called Sir Christopher has proposed new rules, but he won't actually make the new rules. A man called Sir Ian actually does that, and Sir Christopher has written to Sir Ian to tell him not to water them down. Meantime, the man who actually runs this place, or helps run it, an MP called Sir Stewart, says, don't worry ahead, the House is getting itself in order. Well, frankly, I don't think many people will feel that tonight. This whole exercise has cost a little bit more than it's saved. Cost 1.16 million, saving 1.12. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious.
And we have Nick Clegg today. Nick, saying that this hopefully is a final chapter. Do you see it as a final chapter?
I don't think it is the final chapter, no. I mean, remember that this really began as much as 30 years ago when a Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, said we can't put your pay up to MPs, and effectively gave the shop stewards of this place control over their own conditions. Every Prime Minister since has maintained that system. 5 years ago, there were the first freedom of information requests. Tomorrow we may hear if the police and the courts get involved. It's not over, and frankly, Hugh, it will only be over when we talk about what MPs do rather than what they're paid and what they claim, and it can't come a moment too soon.
Nick, thank you very much. Nick Robinson there for us at Westminster. An overseas